when people purchase from you, they want to feel confident in your ability to actually deliver what you promise them.
Yeah.
And this is an idea called predictability.
Okay.
There's a certain amount of predictability that your customers really want. Now, they don't want you to be entirely predictable. You know, as we talked about in the expectation effect, they love to be surprised in a positive way.
Right. But you've got to at least meet their expectations.
Right. You don't want to surprise them in a negative way.
Right.
Okay? And there are actually 3 elements of predictability that go into making sure your customers' basic expectations are met.
Okay.
And the first is uniformity. Okay? What would happen if you open up a can of Coca-Cola or open up a bottle of Budweiser beer and it is flat and rancid?
Probably not going to want to buy it again.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. What if even 1% of them are flat and rancid, but the rest of them are great?
I would say it's often enough, even if you hear about it from a friend, that it's going to make you at least think twice about buying it.
1 in a million is probably enough for people. It's like, I opened up a bottle of Coke the other day and it was atrocious. That stuff spreads really quick.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, companies like Coke and Budweiser are in the business of selling a product that is based on a very long, complex chemical process that's extremely sensitive. Okay? And, you know, when soda or beer was manufactured, you know, before the time of these large companies that put a lot of effort into controlling every part of the process, it wasn't uncommon, you know, to open up a bottle of beer. It's like, this one's bad. But Coke and Budweiser and companies like that put a lot of effort into making sure that no matter where you are in the world, the product is exactly the same. It's absolutely uniform. So, you know, if you fly to Australia and you open up a can of Coke, it is going to be the same Coke that you would get someplace else.
Got it.
So uniformity is really important. Being able to produce the same value for people over and over and over again. Okay, every time.
Okay.
Now,
so uniformity is the first.
Uniformity is the first. Okay. The second is consistency. And this is all, we'll use Coke as another example. In the mid-1980s, I think it was 1985, Coke decided to update its formula.
Oh, dear.
And still call it Coca-Cola. They called it New Coke.
Oh, really?
Yes, we were about 4 at the time. So we don't remember this directly, but they decided that they were going to reformulate Coca-Cola, and it was going to be, you know, the next best thing.
I'm sure that went over great.
It went it basically was like a hydrogen bomb on Coke's business.
Ooh.
People hated it.
So did they change it back?
Yes.
Huh.
So they changed it to New Coke.
Okay.
Coke customers were expecting one thing.
Were they, like, the cans, did they look the same?
Yeah. They changed the formula.
Huh.
Okay.
Changed the recipe.
They were inconsistent in what the product was. And as a result, there was a huge backlash and people stopped buying Coke.
I could see that.
It wasn't what they wanted. Coke, the company even had taste tests that, you know, in a blind taste test, people preferred the taste of New Coke versus Coke Classic. But because people were buying something and it wasn't consistent with what they expected, they hated it and they stopped buying it. And so after a while, the company's like, this is not going well. And so they stopped making it and they started making what is now called Coca-Cola Classic, which was the original formula.
Oh, wow.
They just brought it back. So it would have been far better for the company, because they were doing something new, to launch it as something new and let people build their expectations of consistency on that.
Got it.
And if it does well, then great, keep selling it. Instead of changing something that people had expectations of into something new and selling it as the same thing.
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay, so consistency is a really big deal.
Okay.
You know, don't do something new and sell it as something old.
Yeah.
The last part is reliability. Now, if you ask a Windows computer user what they hate the least, or what they hate the most about using their computer, you know, 99 times out of 100 they'll tell you, I hate it when the system crashes. Yeah. Okay. I hate it when I'm trying to do what I'm trying to do, and my computer just dies.
Right.
It's bad. Same thing with, this is actually something, also back in the early to mid 80s, there was a little car called the Yugo.
Okay.
Which was an import, and it was sold, I think the manufacturer's suggested retail price was under $4,000 for the car. And so they thought this is, great, inexpensive vehicle, we'll launch it in this market. It's way underpriced versus anything else. It'll do great. The problem with the Yugo, and I remember this vividly because my dad had one.
I did not know this.
It was a very unreliable car.
Oh, no.
And he had to commute about a mile to work every day.
And you don't know Josh's dad.
And it's a good thing because that car probably wouldn't have gone much further than the mile between our house and where he worked. And it was so unreliable that people started making jokes about the Yugo.
Oh, no.
And for purposes of posterity, I found a couple. What comes with every Yugo user's manual?
I'm stumped.
The bus schedule.
Oh, no.
What makes a Yugo go faster? A tow truck. Why does a Yugo have a rear window defroster?
Why?
To keep your hands warm as you're pushing it.
Oh, my God.
I mean, it was so utterly unreliable.
How long did your dad keep that car? Because I can't see that as a beautiful relationship.
I don't remember, actually. I remember getting rid of it after a point. But, I mean, it was just a cheap, crappy car.
Oh, no.
And as a result, the company went out of business because after a certain point,
right,
like, if you're commuting to work, if you need to go get groceries, in the U.S. where things are so spread out, if your car is not reliable, it's actually a liability. It doesn't help you.
Yeah, mega reputation effect there.
Exactly. And so the company's reputation suffered so much that they essentially went out of business. And so, versus, think of a company like Toyota, with the Toyota production system and consistently making their value chain much better, one of the things that they were optimizing for was reliability.
Right.
And so people know that, when you buy a Toyota, whatever it is going to be a reliable vehicle.
And so they will normally, if they can, spend more money for that.
Exactly. It's predictable.
Makes sense.
And so people want their basic expectations to be met. And the best way to do that is to make sure that your offer is predictable.
Cool.